panel seriously think
There's a microphone.
that there is a role for consultants beyond the next 10 years? By that I'm asking the question particularly of Vivian, but to the whole group. Don't you think that AI, robotics, digital technology, and various other formats, cloud computing, will in fact wipe out the purpose of consultants?
Is this on? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting question. Will machines outdo human beings?
Comment.
I don't know if I could answer that question, but I think consultants will play a very big role in being able to decipher all of the information that's coming out there and nearly become like information brokers. And I think they play a role in that already. They're doing a lot of that. But, you know, there's so much information being thrown and available for farmers these days that I think half of them are just like, oh, this is all too much. I've got to, you know, how do I deal with all of that? So it's about from a digital agriculture perspective, it's about the interpretation of the information rather than the generation of it.
Thanks very much, Tom. Thanks for the question. Thanks, Viv. And Lawrence was asleep in the middle there. So we've managed to ask him for a comment. And Mark, you didn't get away with it neither. So you're next. And then we'll go up the back. Lawrence?
I've been asked to rapidly, you know, provide a comment on that. So I had to think about it in about 10 seconds.
That's plenty.
It's a very thought-provoking statement, Tom, I must say, and a very relevant one. You know, will the machines outdo the humans in the advisory field? I think for nowadays, the humans still add a lot of value because they interpret the information and make it available. But what if the algorithms become so good that you go to your milking machine and there you get, how you need to act for the next month? Is then an advisor still necessary? I don't have the answer either, but I do think this requires a very good thinking process and maybe some strategic, technology intelligence. Really initiate a process with some futurologists to see what does that mean for us. Because if you don't think about it, then you will miss the boat, as we say in Dutch. Very Dunglish expression, I'm aware of that. But then you have a problem.
Thanks, Lawrence. Mark, if you've got anything to add to it, you don't need to, but from a New Zealand and other international experience. Mark Payne at the front here, and then we'll go back to Bruce.
Probably two observations. New Zealand got very close to winning the America's Cup last time. And
stick to topic, Mark.
Yeah. And we were 9-1 up, and to this day you could sort of think the argument might have been that there was machine learning technology on the other boat, that you could consistently lose every other race after that point. So in terms of human ability versus machine ability, the position we've taken so far in the New Zealand dairy industry is to invest increasingly in the information environment, but still rely on people in terms of their creative space. And given the complexity of farm systems, we think that'll still hold for the next decade. But it's a bit like genetics. You'd be mad to not be part of that new future.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks, Lawrence, for pinch hitting there. And Bruce, you had a comment as well?
Yeah, Bruce Hancock from PIRSA in South Australia. Question to Sally Martin. Sally, at our regional workshop for this whole project, the South Australian Livestock Consultants, voted career pathways and models as one of the highest priorities. I listened to your presentation today, and it would appear you're perhaps only going to test one model, and that's the mentor-mentee. We were pretty keen for you to explore right across the whole gamut of models of career pathways. Things just like, senior consultants charging more and just getting on and employing the new graduates. Apprenticeship type schemes, or cutting their teeth in research and then pilfering them back into the extension and consulting area. So I reckon you've only just focused on one model. My challenge is, are you going to do any work on all the models that are potentially there?
Okay, so Yes, acknowledge what you've just said. The action research component of this trial is focusing on one of those models, and the other component, which I think was put up as a webinar idea, but we're still developing on how we're going to manage that, but it's definitely covering, the idea is that we will still cover those other concepts, but it wasn't not part of where we're up to at the moment. So fully acknowledge all of those things, because I think that they play a big part, and we need to, I think like Jackie said, this needs to be in a commercial context as well. So it has to be sustainable in the long term, otherwise we won't have them.
Terrific question in the middle, thank you.
Yeah. Richard Fitzgerald from New Zealand Red Meat Profit Partnership. I've been trying to structure this as a question because I don't want to tell Australians what to do, but I can't. So it's a comment to Jackie in terms of the scope of your project. We've been involved in a meat company, a meat processor to farmer supply chain linking research program, and we found that the intangibles around that relationship development are very, very valuable. And so if you just look exclusively at the commercial value proposition, you'll actually miss quite a bit of the value creation in the relationship. So just by way of comment, don't think too narrowly around what value will be created with a change from a transactional relationship to a partnership relationship.
Jackie, you have a comment on that?
Thank you for that. I'd be interested in chatting to you a bit more about what you've observed in New Zealand. That would be great. My comment is we're hoping that last point I made about them seeing the value in doing extension well is hopefully going to be looking at how they build their relationships with their farmers, which I think is what you're talking about there. Very difficult to put a dollar value on. And so when we've gone to both the processes, and this may not have come out quite as clearly in the presentation, they've said where we'd like to work with you is with our teams and look at how our teams on the ground actually do their job. And in both cases for the Warrnambool Cheese and Butter and for JBS, relationship with their growers, producers, farmers was pretty key to what they do. So they see value in that. Yeah. Thanks.
Terrific. Question? Oh, good on you, Mike.
Yeah, look, Steve, I won't pretend it's a question. It's a comment. It's a comment on the question.
I'll take it as a question.
That Tom asked. And the comment is that the consultants, McColl, Makem, McGowan, the consultants of the 60s in the eastern states, and the bevy of people that went from New Zealand to Western Australia in the 1960s could not have imagined the challenges, the opportunities and the technologies which face farmers and consultants today. So my challenge to Tom is we can't actually begin to think about, imagine all of the challenges that farmers are going to be met with in the next 30 years. But that's our challenge, Tom, for us to actually start to try and imagine what is going to be in front of people and try and jump ahead of it.
Thanks very much, Mike. And Carolyn, I'm going to do something awful, which I shouldn't do, but ask you to respond to that, because I think a lot of your thesis was around the development of wisdom, the difficulty of developing an algorithm to really tackle some of the complexity that we've got facing us in the next 10 years. Would that be right, or?
Yeah, we've certainly been struggling with the whole big data concept at BCG and trying to understand where farmers might get value from all of these sensors, driverless tractors, all these data that's going to be thrown at us into the future. I mean, I think like someone said earlier, we're probably, as farmers, struggling to cope with the amount of information that's coming at us already, and that's why it is great to have so many consultants, advisors, service providers helping us sift through that. The challenge is that a lot of the people in the agriculture industry at the moment don't have a lot of skill and a lot of capacity in this space, and they certainly don't have it locally. even in terms of trying to get connectivity to the farm, it's very hard to get someone locally who understands what the challenges are, what the difference between a mobile black spot is and connectivity for the computer. The difference is, well, it's a bit beyond me too, but we don't have that capacity locally. And one of the challenges also is to find out where the value for the individual farmer is and potentially where a space for a group like BCG might be. And we're exploring a data cooperative at the moment. Because as you know, Barnaby Joyce has put some money into agricultural cooperatives. They may be, I realise there's a lot of dairy people in the room, but they may be on the nose a little bit at the moment, but it's just another version of collaborating and working more closely together, which is where the industry needs to go. And with the technological developments, like I said earlier, we need to not just work with each other within the industry, but we need to try and headhunt and access those people who really do understand these technological challenges.
Thanks, Carolyn. Thanks very much. Sorry to put you on the spot. And Vivi, you got nothing to add to that, to those chats?
No, I think what our trials showed thus far is actually those 3 points that you just said. So I think, I won't comment.
Terrific. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll move into another table discussion, but I'm going to do another nasty thing here. And Jana, so as the leader of the trials, have you found that the trials have been everything you wanted them to be? Are they uncovering more opportunity than perhaps you would have thought? What's your sense on how they're running? And you can use 2 microphones if you...
I'm not sure I can get either to work, but it seems this one is working.
Yeah.
Look, but that's mean to be putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
like
it is,
this.
yeah.
Look, I think the trials are doing really well. I don't know that what my expectations were, to be honest, right at the start. What we have seen is that obviously collaborating and learning to collaborate is a big part of the learning learning process and the result that we're taking out of the trials. And I think it shouldn't be underestimated, both in its value, as in what everyone in each of the trials learn and take home, but also in terms of the efforts and the effort that is required to make something like this work.
Yes.
And I know that it's been a little bit scary for most of us, but considering all that, I think we're doing terrific progress, and I'm very happy to see the state of the trials that they're in right now.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much for that. And what was our song in Eurovision? It Don't Come Easy or something like that. And that gets back to your point, Mark. And I think this, this integration and the development of systems at work is a big scale kind of effort for an industry and for agriculture to undertake. So they're not easy runs, are they, always? So that's great. Thanks very much, Jana. So what we'll do now, ladies and gentlemen, is 15 minutes. We'll go back to our tables, we'll talk with our facilitators, and what we're interested in here is your ideas and commentary that might enhance these projects. You've heard the trials, and we'd really like to get some of your feedback on what trials hold the most promise in your view, and what actions we might take or concepts we need to take on board to make sure that they do progress in the best possible way. So focus on your facilitator, spend 10 minutes, tell us how these trials might be improved, and tell us which trials may hold a lot of promise, the most promise.